Good afternoon or good morning, and today our group is going to be presenting on the benefits of horse slaughter within the United States. My name is Anthony Zinzu, and I'm going to start us off with a quick little introduction on the subject matter, that is, horse slaughter, and more accurately, what is horse slaughter? Now, for me, as a person who never really was into the terminology of, well, agriculture, the word slaughter holds a negative connotation for me. And I feel like a key part of this presentation is being able to get past that name, slaughter. After all, we're arguing in favor of it, and we don't want a negative name attached to it. So, first, I'd like to clarify, horse slaughter is not a small or regional practice. It's a multinational industry that surrounds the procurement and sale of horse meat for the most part around the world. Now, the horses that are slaughtered or butchered are typically abandoned, wild, or unwanted horses. This sounds a little weird, but keep in mind that for the past couple hundred years, horses were never really bred for meat production. So regardless if they were raised for it, you wouldn't see any immediate differences between these wild horses as long as they're treated and a certain horse that you raised, because it's too soon for that shift to be made. Anyway, moving on, the United States no longer directly participates within the horse meat trade, not for a few decades now. However, between 2012 and 2016, roughly 137,000 American horses were transported abroad every year to be slaughtered. As to say that while we no longer directly participate in the horse meat trade, at least up until recently, we still participated in it by giving horses to be slaughtered. And again, there's a reason for that, which will be discussed later on. Now, for the second part of this little slide, I'd like to discuss the economic aspect. And for a presentation about animals being slaughtered, it might sound a little heartless to talk about the money, because these are animals, they're living beings, they have emotions and feelings too. But an important part to remember about animals and agriculture in general is that the point of cultivating and caring for these animals that we've accustomed is for usually monetary or some other benefit. For horses, that many of their labor-related roles have slowly been replaced. And now we have an overpopulation problem. Again, this will get touched on more in the future, but let's discuss these economic parts for a little bit. The biggest three exporters of horse meat as of 2022 were Argentina, Belgium, and Poland, in that order. So a good amount of the Atlantic world exports horse meat. So it's not something that's that uncommon. The four biggest importers of horse meat as of 2022 were Italy, Belgium, Japan, and France, in that order again. So that shows again that we have a very wide market for who would buy horse meat. So again, it's not some niche practice that takes in some corner of the world. And finally, the trade cumulative is valued at approximately $373 million as of 2022. That's not small numbers. That's a very big number, especially for a certain meat trade. Now, albeit it's not as big as, let's say, cattle meat, but it's still a very big, sizable amount. So without further ado, I'm going to pass it on to Jorge, who's going to be discussing a little bit of the history and background of horse slaughter.
History and background. Horse meat consumption is legalized all over the country, except in states such as Massachusetts, Hawaii, Delaware, and Rhode Island. Other countries where horse slaughter is legal are in Mexico and Canada. In Mexico, thousands of horses are sent for slaughter each year. And in Canada, it has 4 equine slaughter plants, 2 in Quebec and 2 in Alberta. The rise of the automobile and electric streetcar during the industrialization time led to the end of the role of the horse used as a primary way of transportation. This led to the emergence of an American horse meat industry. Humans have consumed horse meat for over 400,000 years, as evidenced by a cave art in France's Chauvet Cave. Slaughtering horses for consumption in the United States started in the 1970s. During the 1990s, the U.S. had at least 16 federally inspected horse slaughter facilities. In 2007, Congress started denying federal funding for horse slaughter, and in 2020, the Save America's Forgotten Equines, also known as the SAFE Act, was reintroduced to permanently protect horses from being slaughtered. Why should horse slaughter be legal? Well, one of the reasons why it should be legal is to control horse population, which is primarily due to the rapid breeding rate of horses, combined with the decreased need for working horses in modern society. Another should be for consumption. Horse meat can be a high source of protein, and in a starving world, a high source of protein should not go to waste for sentimental reasons. Another is for horse byproducts. Hoof glue, which is made by boiling down the hooves of horses into partially hydrolyzed keratin, can be used and found in things such as woodwork. Horsehair can be found in things such as paintbrushes, and the collagen is a protein found in skin, bones, tendons, and cartilages of horses that can be used to make gelatin. It is also inhumane that many horses are left to starve or abandoned due to the cost of euthanization and the cost to maintain them. Another reason why horse slaughter should be legal is the economic side. U.S. horse processing facilities means an opportunity for people to find a job. Before the closing in 2007, the last 3 domestic horse slaughterhouses in the United States brought in millions of dollars yearly. It is also a viable option to dispose an unwanted horse. During tough times, Americans had consumed horse meat, such as in World War II and the Civil War.
Hello, my name is Joaquin, and this is the cultural and sociological importance of the slaughter of horses. Sociological importance: the U.S. banning horse slaughter and exporting of horse meat, while other nations continue the practice, can lead to disparity in global trade. Many areas in Central Asia and even Europe consume horse meat out of necessity and not choice. This is their livelihood. For the tradition and culture, many foreign countries like Belgium, France, and Japan view horses as livestock just as they would cows or pigs, and some even consider it to be a delicacy. In 2006, 17,000 metric tons of horse meat was exported to foreign countries from the US, valued at a whopping $65 million. And here is a graph of the consumption of horse meat. For the effects of the ban on the slaughter of horses, the US horses are just simply exported to Canada and Mexico for slaughter. Mexico seeing a 660% increase, and Canada seeing a 148% increase from between 2006 and 2010 of horse exports for slaughter, respectively. Countless jobs and money lost due to the ban on the slaughter of horses. Overpopulation of horses in the US, the ban has effectively led to an increase of neglect, abuse, and abandonment among horses. More horses equals a higher chance of neglect, abuse, and abandonment to occur. The ban of exporting horse meat has led to more waste and less sustainability. Horses that were already going to be euthanized and disposed of effectively have no other purpose. And here's a table of how you can see they were being exported to Mexico and Canada after the ban. Thank you.
Hello, this is Ethan Souza, and these are current events. So as covered in the last slide, since the ban of slaughter and sale of horse meat in the US, most unwanted horses are shipped to Canada and Mexico to be slaughtered, which is not a very good alternative. The conditions in these slaughterhouses in Canada and Mexico are not nearly up to the standards of our slaughterhouses in the US. US slaughterhouses have much more restrictions and much more protocol that is followed. They're recorded. The animals are ensured much better safety than if they're shipped to other countries to be slaughtered. So if slaughter was legalized here, we would guarantee these animals a safer, cleaner death rather than having to suffer in a much worse fate in a foreign country. The Save America's Forgotten Equine Safe Act is a bill that was introduced in 2023, and that would permanently ban horse slaughter in the U.S. in any regard. So this bill would also ban private slaughter, which you can still do in several states. You can privately slaughter and consume your horse, because although the sale of horse meat is illegal, the consumption in most states are not. More so, this bill prohibits the transport of horses for slaughter in other countries. So this would stop from Canada and Mexico, which is kind of a good thing, but it's going to worsen the overpopulation issue. So we cannot slaughter the horses here. We cannot slaughter them in another country, and there's still a lot of unwanted horses. So this may result in an overpopulation issue because we'll have no idea what to do with all of these horses. So this might be a catastrophe for the ecosystem, but we will have to see where this bill goes. Now we're going to check out some health benefits of horse meat. Now, before we start eating a lot of horse in the US, there would obviously have to be a lot of changes made in terms of like the products given to horses as they're growing up, so that, you know, we can consume them without the fear of getting something toxic in our body. But there's many other cultures that regularly consume horse meat, and these are some of the things that were gathered from them about the benefits as well as the taste. So both horse meat and beef are very similar in levels of protein, but horses have significantly less fat. Horse fat also has less saturated fat. And just a quick, looking at lifestyle, right? Beef, pork, very solitary animals for the most part. They don't spend a great deal of time running around. They're just raised, especially with beef. They might spend some time in pasture, but most of the time at the end of their life, they're spent in a feedlot. And so not a lot of running around. When you look at a horse, super athletic animals, super healthy lifestyle. So it makes sense that their meat, as a result, super healthy compared to these other animals that we raise for meat. So compared to pork and beef, horse meat contains more omega-3. And in cultures that eat a lot of horse meat, from videos that I've watched, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, that area, huge horse meat consumers. It is believed by some that horse meat can even boost the immune system, improve bone health, and increase stamina. It's considered a superfood in those areas, and it's very much a staple in their culture, especially Kazakhstan, who trace their roots to very nomadic times when they would need horses to ride around with them and eat for meat. They couldn't have slow animals with them. They needed fast animals because they were moving around a lot. And that's just the history of the area. And as you expect with a leaner animal, very similar to beef, but leaner and gamier, which just comes with being more active, running much more. Also, this doesn't even go into all the byproducts that horse meat creates. Horse oil, apparently, has very, very good benefits for your skin and is widely used as beauty products in parts of the area where it's legal.
Thank you, Ethan. And now we're going to move into our conclusion for this presentation. So, as a whole, horses have always held a special position in the American conscience as a companion and a friend. And for some people, usually not the majority, a product. The act of slaughtering and consuming a horse, for many people, can be equated to those city people or those who haven't really owned or been around horses as eating the family dog or cat because of that personal connection that some people grow. And while this is true for many, it doesn't create a perfect universal standard. Many people view horses in a similar way to how they view cows and pigs and sheep and goats, where they're animals on a farm to be used for work or food or some other product that they produce. Horses, for a long time, have always been used for their work, as either transport, plows, whatever, right? But as we move into a modern era, we've come into a different problem. Horses have lost that important role, and they've been replaced by many things. And in addition, they've gotten more expensive to take care of, which has resulted in thousands and tens of thousands of abandoned, wild, or unwanted horses roaming the United States. This issue needs to be addressed. And while it's altruistic to say that we should take them all in and shelter them, that's also really expensive. And again, a large reason of having these animals in the first place was money driven. And while of course a good idea would be to move towards caring for all of these animals, it's not really possible or feasible. In addition, the number of these horses are growing year on year. And again, You can't just keep growing for that, caring for that exponential number and expect no one to pay for it. So, horse slaughter acts as a solution, or at the very least a stopgap. Even though it's not perfect, horse slaughter allows us to take these horses and repurpose them into meat and into another commodity. After all, meat isn't the only thing we get out of horse slaughter. We also get other byproducts that can be turned into glue, gelatin, and plenty more. As Ethan was saying in the previous one, horse oil can actually be good for skin. So there are even new applications that could be found. All that to say, it's not like we'd be killing these horses for nothing. Their bodies would be used well and turned into commodities that can be sold and give these horses another purpose. Now, of course, I'm not saying, none of us are saying that we should completely shift horses to a slaughterhouse purpose and that we should start growing horses specifically to be slaughtered. However, this is a solution to address the growing issues surrounding horse overpopulation in the United States. And as such, horse slaughter should, to an extent, be brought back to the United States and allowed, albeit under careful supervision so that abuses don't happen. Thank you. And now we can just really quickly look at some of our sources. Here are our sources. Thank you for listening, and have a good day or night.